Welcome back, YouTubers. I just wanted to share my most recent build. It's a 650-gallon tank. I recently took down my 1,200-gallon plywood I had set up here, and I decided to go with this tank right here. Give you guys a better view of it. It's 9 feet long. "32 inches tall, 42 inches deep. I decided to stay with the Frontosa species. I got a couple of assorted species in here, and with 9 feet I'm kind of excited to see how they're going to grow. I'm pretty satisfied with the build. Not as big as my previous setup, but it looks just as big, even though it's about half the size. I built the stand entirely myself, and a lot of this is just recycled wood from the 1,200-gallon plywood. Guess I'll start walking you through the filtration. I was able to recycle a lot of the parts from my old setup. Saved me a lot of money there. Really excited for these fish. I just want to see them fully grow. These are slow growers, so they'll take some time. Looks like they're curious this morning. This is a custom 9-foot rock wall. It was done by Universal Rocks in Texas. They did an awesome job. It's the Lake Malawi type rock. Perfect for the fish, make them feel like they're at home. And it's just amazing looking rock they did. I'm really happy with the rock. This custom tank was built with a coast-to-coast overflow. Expands pretty much throughout the whole tank. like a maximum skimming going on here. And what I decided to do with this setup was, I've seen a lot of saltwater applications where they have the return plumbing coming up top, and I kind of like that idea, so I use that on this design. I added ball valves there so I can control the flow of exactly where I want the water to go. And I kind of like the water shooting over. Circulates the water a little more evenly. I did it on both sides. And I also have ball valves to the center as well, where they go in. And I have them right there. These are the reused, repurposed 2-inch piping that I had in the previous setup I had. I was able to salvage them and use them with ball valves as well, control valves. And it's the same as my other setups. I made a drainage pipe, 1 inch, and it goes out, recycles into my plants when I do my water changes. I do have a freshwater line set up already through the wall, as in my other setups, and this is my freshwater line right here. I simply turn it and my fresh water pours right in and I get new water in the tank. Pretty smooth setup, I like it. Everything's pretty efficient. I don't have a whole lot of work as I did in the past. I do have an FX5 strainer in here, but it is behind this piece here. The strainer this is actually hollow, and this is a lid, a end piece cap, but the entire back of the tank is completely hollow, and the strainer is inside there, so any water that is inside behind the wall is getting pulled in, and the FX5 is taking care of that. The output of the FX5 is over here. I inserted a notch hole right there, and that is where my output is for the FX5. This is why it looks like they're shooting out of here. I'll take a look below now, and I'll show you guys what I got going on down here. I ran some LEDs here to give you an idea of what's going on down here. This is a 8-foot plywood sump that I made. One continuous sump, 8 feet long. Two feet by 2 feet. And since everything is gravity fed, well, here's the FX5. Water is shooting upward into that corner there, and then the return is coming from down on the other side. I made this stand with a lot of space here, so if I need to, I can easily get behind there and do any kind of maintenance that comes up. Like I said, this is an 8-foot plywood stump, and in my previous setup I had the same exact measurements, only this time I decided to add a piece of glass here as well so I can see the sides. For this particular setup, I put a split system where I have a pump on both sides. On this setup, I'm using the DC pumps, the Marine Aquas. They're pretty versatile, pretty nice. They even come with a remote where you can control the speed of how fast or how slow you want to go. Slow down the motor and then you can increase the speed. It also has a feeding option, which is pretty cool, where it temporarily shuts the pump off and you can feed your fish without any food being filtered right back. So I like these pumps. They're pretty handy. I did the same thing on this side as well. So I pretty much mirrored it. And on the inside of the sump, I'll give you a walkthrough to this. As I said before, all the water is being drained through gravity. And I also put unions on each piping system and a ball valve so I can control the flow if I need to, or do maintenance, or simply just pull off a piping for whatever reason, and I can just pull it off with the unions. And this time around I completely lit it up, the entire sump. In my previous setup I didn't have it completely enclosed with a lid, and now I'm noticing that I'm having a lot of condensation going on in here. Now I don't even have any heaters in this setup at all, since this is a Frontosa setup and they naturally like deep cold water. I decided not to go with a heater in this setup, and without a heater the temperature stays between 78 and 80 degrees. Pretty optimal, so there's no complaints there. Less electricity I have to use. What I did on this setup was got the standard Walmart trays and just simply piggybacked off the do-it-yourself idea. I made the lids in sections where I'll be doing the maintenance at, and I can simply pull these drawers out and clean them, shoot them with the hose and put them back in. So I have 3 of these containers, 2 there and 1 over here, and each of these containers have 3 trays where I can take them out and clean out the polishing pads and put them back in. Below that I just decided to go with the pot scrubbies, the entire whole bottom actually of the sump. And I put the light baffles down to keep them down. I also put an oxygen stone in various locations to keep the water disturbed and agitate the surface so that I don't have any filming going on. I did it over here as well on each side of the pump. So the water will come down through these series of piping, and this is another one I made with a bio wheel. I kept this one out of all my setups, but the bio wheel itself in there it's pretty big, and I have 3 trays along the filtration that I can pull out and extract and clean the little sponges in there as well. So with all the water coming down on 4 of these filtration cycles here, the water gets cycled out, cleaned, and passes through to the right, and the other side passes through to the left where the water gets pulled back up. I also added another giant sponge block to act as a final form as a filtration, and these are pretty handy to have. I was able to purchase these at angelsplus.com not too pricey, but you know, they're worth the money. And then the water will pass through here and get pulled up here where the pump returns it. I do have sponge filters in here, but I decided not to put the oxygen inside of it because when the water gets low enough, I don't have a lot of agitation on the surface, so I decided just to put the the air stone underneath there where it can still disturb the surface, but water still has to pass through here and collect some bacteria. And with the lids, everything seems to stay contained. I don't hardly have any evaporation. The tank's been running now for a little over a month, and I'm just amazed at the water level that it takes forever to go down, whereas in my other setup the water evaporated a lot quicker. And you know, a large part of it is, I think it's because of the lids. The heat and condensation just recycles the water back down, so I'm pretty happy with that. To give you an idea of what the underground looks like here. And like I said, I can get in here and still access the area if I need to do any maintenance. I use most of the wood that was used on all of this setup here, with the exception of the finer pieces of trim and whatnot, all came from my 1200 gallon plywood setup. So I recycled a lot of wood. There's 4x4s included in the centers, and on the corners I went with a 6-way 2x4. I have 4 of them here and 2 on the back, so these corners are pretty solid. Still trying to get adjusted to this filtration setup because there's just hardly any maintenance involved. I really like the panels, and you can see how well they hold the water. It just evaporates right back in there. So this is an 8-foot plywood build, and I waterproofed it with Pond Shield. I chose white again so I can keep the inside clean. And I ran some LEDs underneath now and get plenty of lighting going on here. And I made sure that I left myself enough space here so that I can pull my canister out with the quick release, pull the canister out, do the maintenance on it, and put it back in. I tried to make this as clean as possible, keeping my wiring just on the corners with a surge protector. And that is the gist of the filtration. For this setup, I was able to find some doors and use the doors, so with the hinges, and that was a big thanks to Mario. But I'm overall pleased with the whole project. It came out pretty nice. And the fish seem pretty happy. I do have Lexan lids. Pretty nice. I can do their feeding through here, but also it actually doubles up as a opener. I can easily get in here. So these lids are a big help. And that is pretty much the tour of my new tank. These guys have been in here for about a good 3 to 4 weeks now, and they seem pretty happy. It's a little early for them, so I'm still trying to wake up, but let's see if I can get some of these guys. These are the blue Mobas. These guys right here, that's the blue Mpimbwes. I have some black widows in here. There goes some right there. And I have one red Frontosa in here somewhere. And that guy in the back. But these Frontosas can get quite large. Skillet size, about 10 inches. Sometimes if you're lucky, a foot. And I have, I'm not sure, maybe about 25 Frontosas in here, so maybe more. The rock work I did here is temporary. Not sure how I want to set up the rock work yet. But I put something that would seem sort of comfortable for them to swim around, because they like a lot of hiding spots within rocks. So I haven't yet decided how I want to set the rocks up yet, but for now this will work. I saved myself a whole lot of space when I took down my other tank. It just opened up this whole room. Well, anyway, guys, that's my new tank now, and I appreciate you guys come checking it out. Let me know what you think. Any suggestions? Drop them down below. And as always, thanks for watching, guys. Keep building.